have to just say, anyone who has doubted me over the past decade about this evil woman now needs to eat some humble pie.
Who does this? Who behaves like this?
My sources are saying that William no longer recognizes his brother. He basically says he doesn't know who this kid is. Harry has become petulant. He's become vengeful. He's very angry at all times. And William's just kind of like, hey, who the heck are you? And yes, they do blame Meghan.
Meghan Markle is threatening to sue the British royal family and Prince William if her titles are removed.
Harry has gotten with Meghan, and he now feels he has to protect her and, defend her at all costs, even when there's bad behavior.
The silence was louder than any royal speech, louder than any palace statement, louder than years of carefully polished public appearances. And according to a growing chorus of royal insiders, that silence may have revealed something far more explosive than anyone expected. Because while the world was busy praising Prince William for being warm, relatable, and charming during one of the biggest radio appearances of his life, others noticed something chilling hiding beneath the smiles. 4 names were missing, not forgotten. Missing deliberately, and if the royal biographers are right, what happened next may be remembered as the moment William quietly signaled the future fate of Harry and Meghan without ever uttering a single criticism. For years, royal watchers have searched for clues about what the future king truly thinks behind closed palace doors. Not the official statements, not the diplomatic smiles, the real feelings, the private judgments, the decisions already made but not yet announced. And suddenly, all eyes turned toward one ordinary morning broadcast that became anything but ordinary. Because when a future king is given a microphone in front of millions of people, every word matters. More importantly, every missing word matters even more. The appearance seemed innocent enough. A relaxed conversation, friendly hosts, casual storytelling, the kind of interview designed to show William as a devoted father, loving husband, and approachable future monarch. Yet beneath the warmth, observers noticed a pattern so precise that it became impossible to ignore.
Can we talk a little bit about Catherine? Because I just wanted to say how well she did in Italy. She's just come back. That was her first foray out there since her recovery. Yeah. How proud of you are.
So proud. I'm very, very proud. She's been amazing. She's been through so much in the last couple of years.
Notice what happened. William effortlessly mentioned family members throughout the conversation. His beloved grandmother, his wife Catherine, his children, his parents. Personal memories flowed naturally. The stories sounded spontaneous, genuine, human, but then came the uncomfortable realization. There were 4 people whose names never appeared. Not once. Not by accident, not by oversight.
I tell you for a fact that my sources that work under William and Catherine tell me that she is not a topic of conversation. She is not on their radar.
Oh, okay.
Harry and Meghan, what they do is not on their radar. They are not concerned about
that. Omission immediately sent shockwaves through royal circles because this family has always spoken through signals. In the monarchy, silence is rarely empty. Silence is communication. Silence is strategy. Silence is often the message itself. And according to some royal commentators, William's silence carried the shape of a verdict. What made it even more striking was the stage chosen for the performance. This was not some obscure interview buried deep inside a policy discussion. This was one of Britain's biggest radio platforms. Millions were listening.
Can be a little bit tricky with names and that kind of thing. So just simply Amanda is absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yes, I'll lose my title this morning. I was hoping for Dame, but it's not come yet, William. I'll talk to you about that
His
later.
Royal Highness.
His Royal Highness. Oh my goodness.
Think about that carefully. Every advisor, every communications expert, every palace strategist understood exactly how much attention this appearance would receive. They knew every headline would be dissected, every quote would be analyzed, every joke would be repeated across newspapers, websites, and television segments. Nothing about this event was random, and William seemed perfectly comfortable, more comfortable than many people had seen him in years.
Grippy cream. You can't beat clotted cream. Now, Prince William, what do you do? Think carefully.
I love that I'm the authority on that.
Here's the big debate. Scones or scones? Scones. I just feel like if you say it really fast, people are like, yeah, you said it the right way. But he's asked about this. And this is, again, one of those cute, quirky, safe morning show questions. What goes first? Your clotted cream or your jam? I love the fact that he's definitely trying to distance himself as the expert on the debate. He brings up his grandma.
Listeners loved it. The future king appeared relaxed, authentic, and likable. The interview generated positive headlines. It strengthened his image. Yet while many focused on what he said, others became obsessed with what he refused to say. Because this wasn't the awkward silence of someone avoiding a controversial question. Nobody even forced the topic. Instead, it was a silence embedded inside hours of family discussion. A silence that became more obvious every time another relative was mentioned. Every warm anecdote seemed to draw a brighter circle around the people William considered part of his public family story. And outside that circle sat Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet.
Is this normally the time when you're doing the school run?
Yeah, I'm hoping that the children are on their way to school. They are listening this morning. I find music for me is so personal to how you're feeling and what you describe. So it's almost like saying to me, like, who's your favourite person in the world? I can't answer that.
No,
but,
you can't.
you know, I love dance songs.
That is where the mystery deepens. Royal communications operate with extraordinary precision. Future kings do not simply wander into major broadcasts and speak freely for hours without preparation. Stories are chosen, topics are selected, risks are managed, messages are carefully shaped. If every charming detail was intentional, then many observers argue the omissions must have been intentional too. The more analysts examined the interview, the more one uncomfortable question emerged. Was William quietly preparing the public for a future royal reality? A reality where Harry and Meghan no longer occupy the place they once held within the institution?
Very like the late Queen, his beloved grandmother in that way. It's been instilled in him by her. All those afternoon teas that they were taking at Windsor Castle when he was a boy at Eton, the Queen was teaching him what's going to happen. She was showing him, this is what you do when you take over the throne. And William has learned from the best that there was, and that was the late Queen Elizabeth II. And it is always that duty and country comes before anything, before even family.
The timing made the speculation even harder to ignore because several respected royal biographers had recently published remarkably similar claims. Different sources, different books, different interviews, yet they all seemed to arrive at the same conclusion. William's patience had reportedly run out.
William does take to the throne, we're going to see a much harder line being taken by him, a much harder approach. Prince William is a man who does not suffer fools.
Suddenly, the radio silence looked less like an isolated moment and more like another piece of a much larger puzzle. A puzzle involving titles, succession, loyalty, and a family fracture that refuses to heal. According to these reports, William allegedly sees the conflict not as a temporary disagreement, but as a permanent break, a line crossed that cannot be uncrossed. And if that interpretation is correct, then the breakfast show may have revealed something extraordinary. Not through a dramatic declaration, not through public criticism, not through confrontation, through absence, through 4 names that never appeared, through a silence sitting quietly in the middle of a warm family conversation, a silence that millions heard without noticing. For William's supporters, the explanation is simple. They see a man protecting the institution he will one day inherit, a future king who has watched years of public accusations, explosive interviews, best-selling memoirs, and family disputes spill across global headlines. From that perspective, the silence was not cruel. It was calculated. It was a boundary, a signal that the monarchy is moving forward without looking back. But for Harry's supporters, the picture looks entirely different. They see a brother being quietly erased from the family narrative while the world watches. And that is exactly why this story continues to fascinate millions, because nobody is arguing about a single radio interview anymore. They are arguing about the future of an entire royal relationship. The reason this silence exploded into such a massive talking point is because it arrived at the same moment that reports about title removals began circulating more aggressively than ever before.
At the moment, Charles has made Harry a Councillor of State.
Terrible.
It's a problem. So what William's going to have to do, and this is what I think William will do when he takes the throne, now this will obviously hinge on Harry still being married to that woman, Meghan Markle. So this all depends on that. If Harry is still married to Meghan, William will strip the title.
Normally, stories like these appear for a few days and disappear. Royal rumors are everywhere. Most fade away almost immediately. Yet this particular narrative refused to die. Why? Because people started noticing something unusual. There was very little effort to publicly shut the speculation speculation down. No dramatic palace denial, no forceful correction, no visible campaign to dismiss the claims. Instead, the discussion kept growing, feeding off silence in exactly the same way the radio interview had. Then came another uncomfortable reality. Suddenly, what once sounded impossible no longer sounded impossible at all. The mechanism existed, the precedent existed. The conversation shifted from could this ever happen to what happens if it does. And that question opened an entirely new chapter in the royal drama, because beneath the emotional family conflict lies something much bigger than hurt feelings. Power, legacy, reputation, control, the future shape of the monarchy itself. According to multiple royal commentators, William reportedly believes that the institution has spent years absorbing damage from public family warfare. Every interview, every documentary, every accusation, every headline. From that perspective, the issue is not personal, it is structural. The monarchy survives by projecting stability. Public division threatens that stability. That is why the reports from various biographers attracted so much attention. They all painted a remarkably similar picture. Different details, different sources, but the same overall theme. William remembers. William keeps score. William does not easily move on. And if that image is accurate, then Project Thaw, the rumored effort to rebuild bridges between King Charles and Harry, may face a problem no amount of diplomacy can solve. Because fathers and sons reconcile differently than brothers do. One side of the royal chessboard appears to be searching for peace. The other side appears to be standing completely still. That contrast became impossible to ignore as reports surfaced of King Charles quietly exploring opportunities for communication and healing. The king, facing serious health challenges, reportedly understands the value of time in a way few people ever do. Time suddenly becomes precious. Every family disagreement feels heavier. Every missed opportunity feels larger. Yet while stories of possible reconciliation circulated around Charles, William's public posture remained unchanged. No dramatic attacks, no public arguments, just distance. Cold, consistent distance. And perhaps that is what makes it so powerful, because public feuds can eventually burn out. Anger can fade. Shouting eventually stops. But indifference is different. Indifference creates space. Space becomes separation. Separation becomes permanence. That is why many listeners looked back at the radio interview and saw something they had missed the first time. The interview was overflowing with warmth. Stories about Catherine. Stories about the children. Stories about family life. Stories about the Queen. The atmosphere felt personal, affectionate, even vulnerable. Yet right in the center of all that warmth sat a silence with a very specific shape. A brother, a sister-in-law, a nephew, a niece. 4 missing names, and that is ultimately why the moment continues to resonate. Not because William attacked Harry. He didn't. Not because he criticized Meghan. He didn't. Not because he announced some dramatic future plan. He didn't. What captured attention was something much more unsettling. He didn't need to say anything at all. The monarchy has always communicated through symbols, gestures, invitations, seating plans, appearances, and absences. Those who understand royal history know that the loudest message is often the one never spoken. And on that morning, while millions of listeners enjoyed a warm conversation with the future king, some observers believe they witnessed exactly that kind of message being delivered. 3 biographers had already warned that William's position toward Harry and Meghan may be far harsher than many people realize. Then came a 3-hour broadcast where nearly every important family member was acknowledged except the 4 names at the center of the controversy. Coincidence? Perhaps deliberate? Many believe so. But one thing is undeniable. Long after the jokes, football stories, and family anecdotes were forgotten, people remembered the silence. Because sometimes the most explosive statement is not the one spoken into the microphone.